Rick Steves, you make traveling look fun. Is it fun? Because I can tell you, to some of us out there, it can be exhausting. Like, how do you make it look so fun?
Well, to do a good job, like on a TV, you're probably referring to my TV show. If we're not having fun shooting it, it's not going to be a good show. I had a earlier production team where it really was a little bit of dysfunction, and it showed in the work, and the TV shows were suffering. But for the decades now, I've just loved the colleagues that I have when it comes to making the shows, and we're having fun. We're turning on a dime, and it shows in the work. It is fun. That's my job as a travel teacher, is how to take the stress out of it and how to help people keep it simple and keep it positive and anticipate the problems and travel smartly to navigate around them and travel fun.
So traveling fun. So as you know, I write for a publication as editor in chief in Monaco, a really fun area, and the French Riviera. Like, where do you like when you're not on TV? Like, where does Rick Steves? Don't tell everybody, but like, where does Rick Steves go? Like, all right, I'm going on vacation. Like, what is a vacation for you? You're high performance. You're an alpha. Where do you go?
I've spent 100 days in Europe every year since I was a teenager. And I do that, and it's my work. I write my guidebooks, and that takes, you got to research the guidebooks. I make my TV shows. It takes 6 days with the crew to make a half-hour TV show. We've made 150 of them over the years. I lead my tours, and I have a tour program where we take 30,000 people around Europe on 40 different itineraries with a couple hundred guides from Europe. And all of that takes just a lot of time for me to be in Europe to do it well. My favorite thing to do over there is to work. If somebody says you can have a vacation, I'd end up working because I love that. I get a lot of feedback from people. It's very gratifying. I'm always making new friends, learning new things, and then sharing it, amplifying it. So every day I'm in Europe these days, I've got a G10 and a G6 on my schedule. That means guide at 10 for the daytime activities and a guide at 6 for the evening and restaurants. And only reason I don't have a G10 and a G6 is I have to stop and write up all the notes.
They sound like planes, though. I have to say, like,
G10, no, but
does
it's
Rick Steves? I mean, you can tell us. We're among friends. Do you have a private plane at this point?
I fly economy. I don't mess around with anything
You
like that.
fly economy.
I, I,
Interesting.
as a matter of principle, fly economy. One thing I really like, Dustin, is that after all this travel, I'm still marveling at how many dimensions of European travel there are that I've never experienced. In the last few years, I've gained an appreciation of the venerable long distance trails. Near Monaco, just a little bit north, you've got Mount Blanc. And it's a 10-day, 100-mile hike around Mount Blanc through France, Italy, and Switzerland. It's a great hike. It's no secret. People are loving to do it. And I did that with my girlfriend. It was a wonderful trip. The next year, we did another thing that's just north of you, enjoying the canals of Burgundy with a gourmet chef on an old canal barge that's been retrofitted into a floating luxury little boutique hotel. And what a tour. I didn't realize that was a thing. But we went for a week on the canals of Burgundy, and the crew was three: the captain, the first mate, and the chef. And we ate our way through Burgundy. That was
Now, how many
delightful.
people, though, Rick? I mean, they recognize you. I
Yeah.
mean, because you're kind of a big deal. I know that you don't see that, but to the rest of us that know, you must be get recognized like all around the world.
Yeah, I do. Not all around the world, but if I go in Europe to a place I'm talking about, I get recognized. If I go to Villefranche, Antibes, or Nice, I get recognized. If I go to Menton, I don't get recognized. And that's why Menton is a new chapter in our France book for the next edition. Antibes and Villefranche, and we're getting a little too touristed. So they're still great, but we wanted to give that emerging kind of destination. And I really think Menton is underrated. Uh, I'm not, people don't know me there. But it's fun for me because people are happy when they see me. I think if people were angry if they saw me, I would wear a mask. But I just enjoy meeting people because I get to interview them about how their trip's going,
I
and they
love that.
it's just a great thing. It's a
Like you hear what
joyful
you
thing.
just said. You get to ask them to tell you about themselves, that you find people to be interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I like that idea that it's a good idea for us rather than for me to be interesting, for me to be interested, and then I get more out of my travels. And I've got a responsibility to learn to understand and empathize with the challenges that confront an American traveler. And they change all the time, and I've got to be up to date on that. And then to come up with some smart ideas on how people can travel better. So, how are you going to deal with the crowds? How are you going to deal with the heat of climate change? How are you going to deal with the ethics of flying versus taking the train? How are you going to deal with the ethics of going to Airbnb? I mean, the old quarter of Nice has changed because of Airbnb and short-term rentals. And not only there's no more locals living in the apartments upstairs, they're out in the more affordable suburbs, and the cute area goes to the tourists. Well, that's kind of okay. That's the way it goes because you don't have enough money. But the fallout also is the business community in that area changes to no longer cater to the needs of the people that lived on the third floor, but now to cater to the needs of tourists that come in. So what made it charming moves out with the residents that funded that charm. And today it's a different economic mix. And it's not as good as what it was. Let's just put it that way.
So do you miss it? I mean, as you look back, you now have like 150. I think that's crazy. You have 100, and not including all the other stuff most people have never heard of, probably never seen.
Right.
But you've done a lot. All these transactions, like people get to see the success at the end.
Yeah.
They don't know everything it took to get here.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't, and they don't appreciate it. A lot of people just say, oh, I could have done that, or this is what I should have done. Well, I love the work, but you got to be an animal for this to really be good at it.
You have to be obsessed.
You got to be obsessed. Yeah. I could make more money writing a Rick Steves guidebook to Costa Rica right now, probably because it might be trendy, but I'm not passionate about that. I'd be the blind leading the blind. I want to make my Ireland book more up to date. I want to make my Scandinavia book recognize the new harbor front in Oslo. So I'm just really a lucky person to have found my niche. It's a real blessing. And it gives me energy to teach this. Yeah, and it's a little bit bittersweet for now because it's a big beat. I was just in Tallinn, Estonia. I love Tallinn. I was just in Tangier, Morocco. I love Tangier. I'd love to go to my favorite Greek islands and so on. And I'm getting to the point now where I'm just thinking the reality is it would take me 20 years to revisit all the places I know and love and all the people that I've known over the last 50 years. And I'm not going to be doing this forever. So I just cannot continue to make new TV shows about places. And I'm just really thankful for what we've been able to accomplish in the last decades. And I'm still enjoying it. Just today, I'm booking my flights for the next 2 trips this spring and summer and lining up all my research.
It's amazing, Rick, that it's as if we just get to join you. Like you're going with or without us. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going on a trip. I'm going to meet some really cool people. Why? Because there's always cool people somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you just bring the rest of us along. But what happens to some people that they don't know how to meet people? Like, what are those 3 questions that you can always rely on? Name, rank, serial number, or talk about the Rick Steves process.
Well, first of all, as a traveler, meeting people is critical. You've got to be an extrovert, even if you're not, if you want to meet people. A lot of people, it's not that big a deal. They'd rather sit on a folding chair with a bunch of other tourists and watch tired cliches on stage. It's an option. It's a flamenco dance, okay, or a flamenco show. You get to see the great guitarist, and then you have a sangria, and you hang out and you enjoy the view with other tourists, and you go back to your hotel. That's fine. But you could actually meet people from that town and have a drink with them and have a back and forth. We're lucky. We speak English. It's the language that works. How many people you meet is what carbonates the experience. And that's the mark of a good traveler. Now, when I'm leading a tour, we take 30,000 people every year on our tours, and how we do those is really important to me. If I'm making a TV show, or if I'm writing a guidebook, or if I'm having a vacation, how many people do we connect with? That's the mark of how successful that travel experience is. And I really like it. I met the one of the prince in Monaco just last summer through his audio tour that he made for the palace.
Hmm.
It was really cool. I mean,
I
of
was
course, I
just
couldn't
with
meet
him
him.
I was just with him in Davos interviewing him.
You were, yeah.
I
Well,
was. I
he
was.
took the time to make the audio tour for his palace,
That's
and
amazing.
and it was a great thing because it enabled a traveler to meet him as well as is realistic. And but those are the experiences you take home with you.
So what haven't you done? Like, have you ever covered outer space? Like, are you going to go there at some point? I mean, you're Rick Steves. You got to literally, if you're not going to be doing a show about a rocket launch and saying, I'm going up there, like, tell me this is on the horizon for you, Rick.
I'm my problem is I my profit is how many trips do I impact in a positive way. I make plenty of money, but my profit is how many trips can I help? That's been my ethic from the start. And it's the best way to make money is not to worry about the money as much as producing something that's going to help people have a better trip. And I realized that my contacts, my history, the size of the market, my colleagues, and so on, it's all Europe. And Europe is the big market, and our books outsell the competition combined in most cases for every region around Europe. So we have a huge responsibility that people trust us for the work that we do. And if somebody gave me an all expenses paid luxury trip to some resort in South Pacific, I'd love to go there because I've never been to the South Pacific. It's on my list. But my first thought would be 10 days. I really need to get back to Sicily and get that material up to date. And I would joyfully turn down the opportunity to go to the South Pacific and lay on the beach, much as I'd love to do it, to go to Sicily alone and work every day 12 hours to get that book up to date. Is it all work? No. I'm eating, I'm learning, I'm making friends, I'm joking, I'm laughing, I'm getting a lot of my ego stroked by travelers that have my book and love the cannoli that I sent them to. That's all part of it. And it's good living. And I get home and I'm in better shape. I feel like I've produced a lot. I've had a lot of people I've met that have enjoyed our work. I've made some money and catch my breath and do it again.
I spend my summers in Sweden, and I love that part of the world because you're outdoors, you're walking, and you can still sit at that cafe outside, have that cardamom bun, or you can still enjoy it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing that you do really well, Rick, is that you show that you don't have to go overboard, that
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't need to be a five-star meal at a Four Seasons, that you're out among the people and the culture.
Yeah.
And you're
You know,
you're proving, and it must drive you crazy. I'm going to add to this to see how many people are on the sidelines that are lazy, thinking that this can't be them, that
yeah.
they
Well,
that they can't go and do these things.
that's my challenge. I need to have my readers, my viewers, my tourists. I need to inspire them to equip themselves with good information, expect themselves to travel smart, and they will. If you just want to be the typical traveler that walks down Damrak in Amsterdam and right there between Hooters and the Hard Rock Cafe, you see a box office selling tickets to the Wax Museum and the Torture Dungeon and the Heineken beer experience. If that's all you want on your trip, that's fine. But I think you're missing out. And somebody who takes their trip seriously and has that information and recognizes that I can make the trip experience transformational if I work at it. I can save a lot of money, I can save a lot of time, and I can double the experience of this trip if I just do a good job. My challenge with my colleagues is to get the information from our own experience, design it, and then help people become their own guides and have a better experience. To me, you can imagine how rewarding that is, and it's an endless challenge. And Europe is a beautiful beat, and I've just dug myself in there. It's what I do, and I'm sort of spoiled. I love, love doing it.
Now, do you find though, Rick, that you've always had this level of emotional awareness or emotional intelligence to know what um, to know how to do it, to know how to communicate with people?
Ah,
Because you're an incredible diplomat along the way. I mean, you eat some meals that I'm like, I don't think that looks very good. And you've traveled to some destinations that I go, that's probably not the top of this list, but you do it with such finesse.
well, thank you. Some of that is the magic of television, I suppose. But I have, I've been thinking about, okay, what are my advantages? How can I do this? It's not that I'm a linguist or a scholar because I'm not a scholar and I only speak English. What I've got is years of experience giving talks, recognizing people's fears and apprehensions and dealing with them, and fashioning my delivery in a way that it seems fresh, but I say these things over and over again. That that works with people. I mean, uh, you're on a ridge high in the Alps. On one side, you got lakes stretching all the way to Germany. On the other side, you got the most incredible alpine panorama anywhere, the Eiger, Monk, and Jungfrau. And ahead of you, you hear the long legato tones of an Alphorn announcing that the helicopter stocked mountain hut is open. It's just around the corner and the coffee schnapps is on. That's a little poem I wrote on top of that ridge 30 years ago. And I just share it, and it resonates with people and it inspires them to do that. Also, I've had the experience of 25 years of being a tour guide on the bus with the bully pulpit, with the microphone, the dictator of what you're going to hear and what you're going to do with your time today. And I've learned
Gosh, you're
how
funny.
many Madonnas and children the mortal tourist can continue to enjoy in one day. How
Yeah.
many hill towns does somebody want to climb up to see before they want to stay on the bus and check their email? So I love to have a sense of what's stressing people out, what are people screwing up, what do people need to know, and to be able to learn from my experience and share it. When I get ripped off, I celebrate because they don't know who they just ripped off. I'm going to learn that scam and bring it home. I love it when I get ripped off because it pisses me off, and I don't want them to do that to my readers next year. I'm going to come home and just share the news. You
God, that
see?
was like me outside the Sphinx about a year plus ago, and they gave me something. Like, that's very nice of that person to give
Oh
me
yeah.
something for free. Well, little did I know it. It came with a lot of "you owe me money."
Oh, I was just in Marrakesh with my girlfriend just a couple months ago, and the henna woman, saw us. We got eye contact. She jumps up and she starts scribbling the henna on Shelley's arm. And we say, no, no. Oh, she says, no, it's just a friend gift. And then pretty soon she's got this elaborate decoration on her arm, and she doesn't want it, and we don't want to pay for it. And the lady goes, $25. And that's ridiculous, It's the people earn $2 in a day there. I give her a couple bucks, and she goes, "No, that's not enough." But you learn that that's a scam, and then you come home and you talk about that, and the next people will go there, and they know that if you get eye contact with the henna lady, buckle up.
Well, they say in poker, right? You can't spot the mark; it's you.
Ah, that's good.
They're
Yeah,
looking right for like that's the guy.
yeah,
He's got
right.
that friendly smile.
Yeah,
He's always being nice, but that always means people are like taking pictures of you. That does
yeah.
that ever weird your girlfriend out a little bit, or is she used to it now?
She's used to it. But it's tough when I'm just on vacation and everybody. I meet a lot of people that want to talk to me, but I feel I'm to me, I always think it's a nice problem to have. It's what I always wanted to have,
It's
and now
true.
I've got
You got
it.
everything you wanted, Rick.
I just feel like it's a responsibility if you're going to be a public person to recognize that, yeah, people, your name's on the cover of their guidebook. They're having a great trip. They want to thank you. That's really fun for me. I enjoy that.
Well, as we now enter the final 2 minutes, which is not the final 2 minutes of Rick, have you ever thought about doing like a master class? Because like you have this really great way of
Hmm.
communicating, and most people out
Hmm.
there, me included, we can always learn from someone that knows
Yeah.
the art of communication.
Thank you, Dustin. I'm going on a tour in a month where I'm going to be the tour guide to 25 tour guides. It's what we call our guide mentoring tour. And I've got a couple hundred guides that lead 1,200 Rick Steves tours around Europe every year as we take 30,000 people on our tours. And I need to have these guides, even though they're already professional guides, they've worked for other companies, they want to work for my company. I want them to be with me. I want to be their guide. I want them to know what I think about organizing the seating at the dinner table. And I want to know what I think about circulating on the bus so everybody doesn't get the best view, and how to deal with the fact that most people can eat anything. And a few people have dietary concerns. How do we compassionately deal with that without derailing the whole schedule for the day? There's a lot of challenges, and I want them to know what makes a Rick Steves tour a Rick Steves tour. So that's really my joy, is to amplify my teaching and do it in a smart way where people can choose us to plan their vacations and have a better trip. I'm just really, it's just a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it. And I can't get enough of the teaching. And we do our teaching through our guiding, through our TV shows, and through our guidebooks.
It's remarkable. You have the heart of a learner, even after all
Yeah.
these years. You haven't
Yeah.
aged, by the way. So the people that are listening to this, I will tell you, he's like a young 30s
Yeah.
Sean Connery. Like he's handsome. He is the next James Bond.
Oh boy, I don't know about that. But you mentioned Dustin, the what do you call it, the teaching, the what do you call it,
The
the
master
what,
class.
the master class. Yeah, I've got 30 hours of my lectures on my website, and it's 30 hours of master classes on, as far as I can tell, on every country, on cruising, on packing, on tech, you name it, on skills, on art, on politics, on uh, anything that I've got something where I think is important to say, I like to have it.
Politics. You
Uh,
talk about politics.
I've got a talk called Travel as a Political Act. I've got a talk called Travel as a Spiritual
Well,
Act,
big
talking
things
about
going
being a
on in the
pilgrim.
world right now
Yeah.
in terms of in the United States that may or may not affect the entire world. What are your thoughts on what's going on, and how can we have find unity in all of this?
Well, the most important thing is that we see travel as a force for peace, that when we travel, we get out of our comfort zone. We recognize that the world is filled with joy, it's filled with love, it's filled with families just like us, it's filled with happiness, and there's a few bad apples and some serious challenges, but we've got to be together. And when we travel, we get to know the other 96% of humanity, and we know that the world's not a pyramid with us on top and everybody else trying to figure it out. And we come home with what I think is the most beautiful souvenir, and it's that broader perspective. That's kind of travel as a political act. How do we get that, and what do we do with it when we come home? That's that lecture, and that's a good topic for our next time together, Dustin.
Thank you so much, Rick Steves.
Happy travels. Thanks for having me on.